Okay, now see one thing. Let's understand some basic things related to the objects and classes, where the little bit code is given to you, and the rest of the code you have to do by yourself. I would say OB equal to alpha. I'm saying here, and then I'm saying OB, and I will say something like this: print OB dot name, right? Okay. Then I will say here print display display. And let me give here the name as well. I will say here ANXIE. Okay. And the output you should get here is something like this. Let me show you what output you should get here. In the output screen, you should get something like one is ANXI, then you should get another ANXI, right? Out the output screen, the output should come here, unzi and unzi. This is the code given to you, right? This is the code given to you. From this code, you have to analyze one thing, that from the line number 7, this line number 7 is telling you one thing, that you are having a class by the name alpha. Why? Here we are creating the object OB. If you can say OBG is the object, OB is the object. That means the class name is alpha. Let me create here class name. I will say class, and here I will say alpha, right? This is done. Okay. From the line number 7, you understand one more thing, that there is a constructor. There is a constructor. Definitely there is a constructor. When you are passing something during the creation of the object, if you are passing something here, you are 110% sure that there is a constructor. Let me create here one constructor. I will say here def underscore underscore in it underscore underscore, and here I will keep self, right? And there is a okay constructor. We are pretty much sure there's a constructor. Why we are pretty much sure there's a constructor? Because it is passing some argument here. It's passing some argument here, and here in the constructor we will keep one argument. Let's say I will say name, right? I will say here name. Okay. Now it is saying this ob dot name. Okay, so from the line number 8, we understood two things. One thing is name of the class is alpha, and here there is a constructor. Why? Because whenever you are creating an object of a class, the constructor method is being automatically called. It is will be automatically called since you are passing here one argument. That argument we will catch here in the name. That we will catch here in this name parameter. Okay, so what I will do here is I will say something like this: self dot name is equal to name, right? And here you understand that there is an attribute name, right? So if I will keep something like this, na, so it's not telling me here there is something na, right? So from this line number 10, you understand that there is a one attribute by the name. So that's why I'm keeping here the name as name. How you understand is the attribute? You understand because there is no brackets here. Simple brackets are not here. So that means if it is of the object type, if it belongs to this alpha class, this is the attribute. Here you understand it is a method. How you understand the method? Because here it is a bracket, right? Using these brackets you can understand there is a method. Okay, there is a method by the name display. Let me create one method, and here I will say def display display display, and here I will keep self, right? Are we having any kind of a argument here? No, that means here there will be no parameter, right? What is the self? I have already described it in the previous videos, and here display. Okay, see here. Here is a print statement. If I will do something like this, print, what I have to print? Unzi. This unzi is being stored in the name. That means I have to print here the self dot name as well. Self dot name I have to print here, right? Now if I will execute, that's it from this program. Now if I will execute it, and you are getting the unzi, but there is an extra output, that is none. So what is happening here? When you are calling this print line number 7, when you are calling the line number 7, this line number 7 will automatically call this constructor, that is 2 and 3 lines, right? And here you are passing the unzi will be stored here, and this is the name is the local variable, right? This name is the local variable. This local variable you can't access outside. So I am creating one variable attribute I am creating here, right, by the name, and whatever is here I am storing it in this block, right? Then I am accessing here, right? And here what I am saying at line number 9, I am saying go to the this is the obj, the object of this class, right? I'm going saying go to the class and there will be one attribute name, give me that. It is giving me the name attribute here where the NZ has been stored and it is printing it. Now at the line number 9, what we are saying, ob dot display, right? Display. So we are going to the class. There is a display method and this display method is printing self dot name. Okay, you got the output as self dot name. Since you are having here print statement again, when you are calling this function, it is just executing, but it's not returning something from here that you will catch here. Since it is not returning anything, that nothing is a none here. That's why you are getting the none here. But if I will do something like this here, I will say return, and I will say return self dot name. Now if I run it, now you will get the output as unz and unz. There will be no none here now. Getting this point? Okay. So when you are having something like this while creating an object, if you are passing something here, you are 102,000% sure that there is a constructor. Understand this thing. Okay. Let me remove now this thing. Let me remove this thing as well. Let me remove this thing as well. Now this is the code given to you. Now from this code, you have to again print the mz or nz. But here question is saying you have to take the input from the user. You have to take the input from the user. This name you have to take from the user. Okay. So okay, from the line number 5, one to one thing. There's a class by the name alpha. I will say class alpha alpha. Right. Now this line number 5. Is he telling me 100% that there is a constructor? Is he telling me there is a constructor? No, he is not telling me there is a constructor. So I can assume there may or may not be a constructor. There may or may not be a constructor, but this name you have to take from the user. Okay. So what I can do here is there will be a one. Okay, from the line number 5, I got one thing that there is name of the class is alpha. There may or may not be a constructor. Okay, then we are having one attribute here that is obj name, right? There is a name from the user. I can also say it like this. I can say name equal to input, right? And here I will say enter. Okay, this is one thing. Then I can say here something like this. Okay, now since I have the name here, right? Now it is saying print ob dot display, right? Ob dot display. There is a one method by the name display. I'll say def display, display, and here I will say self dot self colon, and here we have to return this name. This name we have to return. I will say self dot name. Okay. If I will execute it, let's see what will happen. Let's say enter the name. I will say name is uh, ANXIE. Okay, now it is giving me the output as unz and unz. Getting this point? Getting this point? Now, is there any other way, sir? As you said, there may or may not be a constructor. It's not telling me where you have to take the input, right? It's not telling me where you have to take the input, but it is telling me one thing that there is a attribute name. So if I will remove here from here, now I will try to take it from the display. As I am getting an idea here, there is a display. Let's take the input from the display itself. Let's take the input from the display itself. What I will do here is I will say name equal to input, right? And here I will say enter. Okay. Now if I will run it, just see, I will keep it self dot name. And now if I will run it, okay, it will just kind of, I guess, throw an error. Okay, it's saying that here because alpha has no attribute name. Why? What is happening here? We have created the object. After the object, we are calling a name, then we are calling the display function. Since you have not received any kind of input, that's why it's throwing an error. Because after this line number 9, you are calling the display function. This display function has not been called yet, but you are trying to access this name. So here one thing is sure, one thing you are sure that this name we don't have to take in the display function, right? Now you will say, sir, I will keep here one more. I will say def take from user. I will say take self, and here I will say uh, here I will say something like this. Here I will say self dot name equal to input. But from this code, are you getting any kind of idea that there is a take method? No, there is no take method, so you can't have this thing, right? So better here is, since you have to take the input from the user, here line number 9 is saying that there may or may not be a constructor. There may or may not be a constructor. So let's keep as previously I was keeping it like this. Now, as previously I was keeping it like this. I was keeping it like this, name equal to input, not self. I'm saying name into input, right? So better is to keep this thing in the constructor. Don't keep it open. So what I will do here is I will say def underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and here I will say self, right? And here I will say call, and I will take the input in the constructor itself, right? Now here it's not passing anything, so I will not keep here in the constructor. I will keep the constructor parameters empty as well, right? So whenever create an object at that time, this thing will be automatically called, and automatically you will take the input from the user, right? Then it is saying obj.name, so you have given the one attribute by the name, then it's calling the display function, and you are returning the display from here, right? Now you are, it is clear. Now it's clear. Now I'll say a and xi, right? It's giving me the output now, right? So when you are not pretty much sure whether you are having a display alpha function or not, sorry, when you are having a constructor or not, so at that time you can have a constructor, you can't have a constructor. It depends upon you how you are coding over here, right? I have shown you the different versions, and I guess you will understand it now. Okay. Now this thing is clear. Okay, let me give you the different scenarios again now. Let me remove this thing. Okay, so I'm giving here different scenarios now. Let me create something like this here. I'm saying a equal to capital X, and here I'm saying bracket, and inside the bracket I'm saying hi. And let me give you one more thing. I'll say a dot take, and here I'm saying b dot display, right? And here let me give you some rules, some constants here. I will say something like this: class X is having two attributes, num1 and num2, right? Then I will say hash take method takes two input from the user, right? One more constant I am giving here: display prints the num1 and num2, right? This is these constants that you are having here, right? Okay, so now let's do the rest of the code. This is the code that you are having. You can't change this code, you can't add anything else to this code. From this code you have to extract other things. Okay, so from the line number 5 we understand one thing: there is a class by the name X. There is a class by the name X, created a class by the name X. X is a capital here. I have kept the capital here as well. And here from the line number 6 itself, I understand one more thing. The one more thing that we understand from here is that there is definitely a constructor. 100% sure we are. There is a constructor. I would say def underscore underscore in it underscore underscore. And here we'll keep self, right, comma, and here you are having a high. It is passing a argument, one argument high, and since to carry this argument here we will say, let's say I'll say x, small x. I'm saying whatever he is sending from here, I'm getting in this x parameter here, which is the local variable of this constructor. Okay, and then here I will say self dot x equal to x, right? That's it. Then there is a take method. One take method is there. What is take method doing? Take method takes two inputs from the user, right? And one more thing is here. The class is having the two attributes num1 and num2. Okay, let's create a take method. I will say here test take, and here I will say self. right? Now here it is saying it is having a two attributes num1 and num2. Let's create those attributes here as self dot num1 equal to take the input from the user. I will say int input, and here I will say num1. Again I will copy the same thing and paste it here, and let's say here it's a num2. Now we have created the two attributes, one is num1 and another one is num2, right? And the functionality of the take is to take the input from the user, and we are done with that thing. Okay. Now moving forward, what we will do is we will create here def, and here I will say display, 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 and here I will say self. And is this self taking any kind of argument? No, we are not passing any kind of argument. So we will not have here any kind of a parameter. And what is the functionality of a display? To print the num1 and num2. I will say print self dot num1 print self dot num2, right? And if I will run it, now it is saying me num1. What will happen here? This X object we are creating, object A we are creating here, and this thing will be automatically called, and we are passing this high will be stored in this X, and we are storing in this X self.x. Then this why we are doing self.x, I have discussed in the previous videos. Okay, after that we are saying a dot take. This take is not passing any argument, that's why we are not having any kind of a parameter here. Self is there, why self is there, I have already discussed them. Then here we are taking the input from the user for the num1 and num2. This num1 is becoming the attribute now, num2 is becoming the attribute now, right? After that we are saying v dot display. This v dot display is trying to display the self dot num, which is this self dot num. Then it is trying to display the self dot num2, which is this self dot num2. Okay, here you are clear with this thing. Okay, if I will go 89 and second will be 45. Okay, it is going with the error. B is not defined where I have done the B. Okay, here I am doing v dot. Say a dot A is the object, and let me run it again. And here I will say 78. Then I will say 55. Now it is displaying the 78 and 55. Getting this point? Now, if there is something like this, if there is something like this, I'm not having this constraint here, and I don't have this thing here. Alright, this is the thing here. You are having a dot display here. So from the line number one, you are. This is the thing now. Now this is the thing that you are having with you. Just one line is given, class X is given here, a dot display is given here, and this saying class X is having the two attributes num1 and num2, and you are taking the attributes from the user. Here you are taking the attributes from the user, and it is a display function print num1 and num2, right? Let's say suppose here we are also having something like this, a is equal to x, right? Right? This is the code you are having, and rest of the code you have to do by yourself. Okay, so from here line number 5, what do you understand? Two things you understand from here. One is the class name is X. Got it? Class name is X. Second thing is here, it may have a constructor or may not have a constructor. We are not sure about that, right? Then it is saying a dot display, which is displaying something, like 7, 8, and 55. It is displaying. And one more thing you are understanding from here, there is a num1 and num2. Num2 and num1 is the attribute of this class X. Okay. So one thing I can do here is, since we are not pretty much sure about the display, this constructor, let's create a display method. We are having display method. I will say def display, display, and here I'm saying self, right? And here if I'm saying, I can say here num1 attribute we have to create. I will say self dot num1 equal to int input, right? And then I'm saying self dot num2 equal to int input, right? Now we have to display this num1 and num2. I will say print self dot num1 comma self dot num2. Okay, now if I will run this program, okay, it's waiting for me. I'll say 45, and second number I'll say 25. Now it is displaying the 45 and 25. Okay. So, but from here, it's not telling me that you have to take the attributes in the display function. You have to take the attributes in the display function. It's not telling me that, but it is telling me display print is the num1 and num2. This is the information that I'm having, right? This is the information I am having. And here I told you at the line number 8, you can have a constructor or you can't have a constructor. So if I will keep the constructor here, I'll say here, let me say something like this. I will say here def, and inside the def, I will create a one constructor. I will say init underscore underscore, and here I will say south. Right? Why south? Because we are not passing anything from here. If we had passed something from here, then we could have something here, right? Since we are not passing anything from here, we can have a constructor which is not receiving any kind of argument, right? The thing that we are taking the input from the user, that thing we are taking the input from the user, I can take those inputs here in the constructor itself. I can take those in the constructor itself. At this point, I can take here itself, right? Because we are pretty much sure about the display method. Display method is printing something. That is num1 and num2. It's not telling me that display method is taking the input from the user. Okay. So here at the line number 10, we are getting the idea there may be a constructor or may not be a constructor, right? And here we are getting the idea there's the two attributes which is taking the input from the user. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a constructor and taking the input here in the constructor itself, right? And when you will execute this program, so what will happen whenever you are creating this object at that time, this line is being executed. This line is being executed. Let me give here some message so that you will understand. I'm saying enter, and here itself I will say enter. Okay, now if I will run it, let me clear. Okay, let me give here something like this. Okay, let me run it again. Okay, now it will tell me enter. I'm saying 78 and let's say 25. I'm saying now it is saying the 78 and 25. Okay, I hope you understood when to use a constructor, looking at these constants as well, and when to not use a constructor, looking at these constants as well. Hope in this helpful video, I will come up with more videos on this as well.